You know those random calls that hit your phone right as you sit down to eat? Or those WhatsApps asking if you want funeral cover? Well, breathe easy, Mzansi. Big changes are coming. The Information Regulator has just dropped major updates to South Africa's data protection laws under POPIA, and marketers are now being held to stricter rules. Today, I'm having a conversation with Advocate Collen Weapond. He's the commissioner responsible for POPIA, to unpack what these new regulations mean to you and how they plan to finally give us some peace from the spam calls. Press 1 now. Absolutely. Stay tuned. You don't want to miss this. Advocate Weapond, thank you so much for your time and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Pasha, for having me.
To start off, what actually prompted the Information Regulator to update the regulations, especially with the that have to do with the direct marketing?
Yes, so Pasha, the Information Regulator has always been mindful and concerned about all these spam calls or marketing that was not properly regulated, and that was becoming a huge concern. And that concern can be tracked down in terms of media reports as well as complaints against the marketers. And that necessitated the regulator to also consider updating the regulations, but also introducing the guidance note on direct marketing.
Wow, that's something, because I believe earlier on I spoken to advocates from the Information Regulator as well. We were talking about this she called it a nonsense of the calls at that time. Now, with the new regulations, advocate, the new regulations are making it very clear that there have to be an opt-out on the consent, saying that I'm not consenting on this. Why is this important, and what is so distinctive about it?
Yes, so opt-out is basically a mechanism that you choose not to participate. And it's a very important point. And the reason why I'm putting it in layman's terms is for the listeners to understand and to also know how to exercise their respective rights when it comes to opt-in and opt-out, and what are the consequences and the implications. So it is basically your right to choose not to participate, not to be part of any marketing or any promotion.
This makes our lives very, very, very easy, especially for the consumers particularly. Now, Advocate Weapond, we are talking today, it is, I'll say it is Freedom Day in South Africa, but this particular law came into effect this month sometime, where exactly the marketers have to obtain an explicit consent. Can you break down what it means when we say explicit? Because I'm not really looking forward to another call. Your call just now, a call that is going to call me anytime soon.
Thank you so much, Pasha. So what is meant by explicit is back to what we would call consent. So that specific standard of consent includes the fact that it must be informed, it must be voluntary, and it must be in writing. And that would then go back to what you now state as explicit. So we want to see, as the Information Regulator, that consent is indeed explicit. It was given, it was not coerced, and the person who took or make the decision was in fact well aware of the fact that he or she consents to a specific goods or specific product or specific service. So that's basically where the explicit comes in, because if there's a complaint and that complaint reaches the Information Regulator, then the Information Regulator would also want to have proof, and the proof would then form part of that explicit part that you've just mentioned. So explicit becomes important for us when we look at any of the complaints against direct marketers for possible contravention of Section 69 or Section 11 of POPIA.
The fundamental important point here is that the consumer needs to be informed.
Yes, must be informed, must be specific, and it must be in writing, or there must be some type of a measure, even if it's a recording, that we could rely on, because it could still be reduced into writing, and that speaks to the explicit part of the consent that is required when somebody consents to direct market.
But then the company, Mr. Collen, or can't they get away with saying that, oh no, it wasn't anybody's voice, it was just one of those automatic machines, digital machines. Aren't they going to get away with that?
So we have another step, and the first very step is all your listeners must ask where the information obtained from. And the act is quite clear, POPIA, that you need to obtain the contact details for the personal information of the person that you intend to contact and market to directly from him or her. So that now closes that gap, that it must be obtained from the person, unless if the information was made publicly intentionally so, or the information is derived from a public record.
That is highly important. So what mechanisms do you have to ensure that marketers now, they comply with the rule, especially to provide recordings of telephone consents upon request? I cannot state so much, Advocate Collen. Over the years, we've had go-go's, grandmas and grandpas who have been in agreement that was just only made on a phone call. And it's really been a difficult process. So what do you have in store to ensure that the recordings are now available for consent?
So far, and it's a very important question, of the information regulator's approach is to ensure that we can gain access to any and all records. You would know that POPIA has a provision that requires or contains a provision that requires that we can request through an information office any information that we need, that we require. But on the other side, Portia, this is the very important point. If a company should, for instance, misrepresent or lie or fail to make the information available that we require, it's a criminal offense. And that in itself is punishable by law. And we as the information regulator take our role extremely serious, because we have already issued a fine in the region of 100,000 rand against FTREMS, a marketing company. And we are very, very much focused on ensuring that we have consequences for non-compliance. And we also ensure not only the big companies, but also the SMEs like FTREMS complies with the law. And it is also very important for us to state upfront that the mechanisms that we're putting in place obviously will also have to be monitored. And we also have partnerships with IMASA, which is Direct Marketing South Africa. And we intend to ensure that we just strengthen the relationship and the partnership that we currently have with the stakeholders outside of there, because they will also in the process of applying for a code of conduct to also self-regulate their industry. But obviously with the oversight and with the information regulators powers that in place.
And there you have it. Advocate Collen Weapond laying it all out for us. From now on, no consent means no call. It's a new era for data rights, and if marketers don't play by the rules, there'll be consequences. And if you want to learn more or report any violations, just visit www.inforegulator.org.za or follow the Information Regulator on their social media. Let's stay informed, let's stay protected, and let's finally say goodbye to spam calls. Catch you on the next one. Peace.